How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another video where today we're going to be talking about a few things that I guess you could consider them as noob traps. Things that beginner players or people who are learning different things in the game make mistakes in buying or investing into early on. While the items mentioned in this video are going to have uses and are items that I personally have as well, at least some of them, they're items that bought too early or in the wrong order can kind of like put your account backwards a little bit. It's a waste of money and it's just going to be a bad thing to do early on. That being said, these items are not just, you should get this before another thing. They are things that I see people buying quite a lot because they think they are great items to get right now, but there's kind of terms and conditions to getting them, and there's kind of things you want to meet before you do get to them. But these items can sometimes be appealing to newer players because of their function, and so quite a lot of people get misleaded into getting these when they probably shouldn't be getting them anytime soon. So let's get into the video and talk about these items. If you enjoy, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's get going. Alright, so the first item I'm going to talk about is going to be the look of the dwarves. This is something that a lot of people already refer to as a bit of a noob trap because it doesn't give as much benefit as a lot of people do think. Now, as a newer player, who especially as someone who is getting into PvM, like just starting out, you may think the look of the dwarves is a must-have item because everybody does use it at high-end PvM, but that's because they had the spare money and it's a good upgrade to get at that point. As an early-on PvMer, this is not worth the investment, especially at the prices it is today. Currently, the look of the dwarves goes for about 96 million GP. 96 million GP. This is a crazy amount of money, especially for someone who is just starting out PvM. For about 100 mil, you can get yourself some pretty damn good gear and some good upgrades. What the look of the dwarves does, and the reason that so many people do buy it early on, is it gives an increased amount of luck and getting rare drops from higher level bosses. This is a really good sounding bonus effect, right? If you have increased luck at the bosses, you're going to get more money eventually. It's going to pay itself off. It's 1%. For the people who don't know, this gives a 1% increased chance at getting a drop. For 100 million GP, this is just not worth the 1% chance unless you are way further down the line and there's not much else you need to buy as an upgrade. The amount of players I've seen getting into PvM that have something like tier 80 gear still don't have ability codexes that are going to help them out a lot, like Corruption Shot or Corruption Blast, and then they also don't have maybe Great Concentrated Blast as well, and they're using magic. Those things are 100% better to spend your money on than a look at the dwarves. A 1% drop rate increase at a lot of bosses is really absolutely not that much whatsoever. You will only be using the look of the dwarves as a switch. You will likely not be camping this as an actual ring because it just doesn't give as much good stats as other things as well. Most people getting into PvM will likely have a Ring of Death anyway, or a Ring of Vigor. There is just better things to spend your money on at this point. Yes, eventually you will want to grab yourself a look at the dwarves just to have that extra chance, right? You might as well, but when you've got the money for it and you've got all the other stuff you want to get first, this 1% chance isn't going to make you a fortune, and there's also no way of knowing whether the look of the dwarves even did anything for you, apart from in certain situations like at Telos, for example. This is because no matter what happens, if you're wearing the look of the dwarves and you get a drop, it will always say that the look of the dwarves shines brightly, or the look of the dwarves blesses your drop, or something like that, whatever it says, and it's going to say that no matter what, even if it hasn't actually gotten you anything extra than you would have already gotten. So early on, a 100 million GP investment in a look of the dwarves, absolutely not worth it. 100 million GP investment in better gear, better weapons, better armor, ability codexes, absolutely 100% a better choice. Next up is one that surprised me and kind of the reason that I decided to go ahead and make this video. I've had a few people over the last week, about 3 or 4 people just in the last week, tell me that they've got the Armadillo battle staff in an Essence of Finality, but they don't have a Staff of Armadillo. For those of you that don't know the difference, a Staff of Armadillo is the tier 95 staff that gives a buff through the special attack that means every time you get a crit or land a crit on the target, the staff will automatically fire out an auto attack as well, dealing damage and more damage and more damage every time you land a crit. It is really strong. It is actually probably the strongest spec weapon in the game as of making this video, and it pairs very, very well with an Armadillo battle staff special attack, which is inside an Essence of Finality. The reason being is the Armadillo battle staff special attack fires out a lot of attacks very quickly, and each use of the special attack provides a very rapid chance of getting 5 critical hits, meaning you get 5 auto attacks as well should you land all of them. Using the Armadillo battle staff special attack while under the tsunami effect, but also under the Staff of Armadillo spec, can also lead to you having ridiculous adrenaline gain, as if you do crit multiple times, as tsunami effect that gives you more adrenaline back will increase your adrenaline in some cases past where you even started. The cost of using the Armadillo battle staff though is 50% adrenaline. And also I just wanted to mention that the damage that the standard staff spec itself, the Armadillo battle staff spec itself, doesn't do anywhere near as much damage as you may think. The damage that you're getting from this is purely because of the special attack from the staff of Armadillo. Now this all may be getting a little bit confusing, but basically when you use the Armadillo battle staff special attack under the other staff spec, you're going to be doing a lot of damage very quickly because you have a high chance of hitting crits over and over and over and over again. If you use it on its own, the attacks that it does are fairly low damaging. Yes, it still does 5 hits, but those 5 hits aren't nearly enough damage to consider using it for 50% adrenaline. Now, the price of this staff is incredibly high at the moment because it is in high demand, because it is incredibly useful with the fractured staff of Armadillo. The Armadillo battle staff is sitting at around about 300 million GP at the moment. 300 million. It is incredibly expensive. Not to mention, you will want to pair this with an Essence of Finality if you plan on using it with other weapons, which of course I'm assuming most of these players would have been doing, as the tier of this staff will be lower than the gear that they are using. So adding to the cost of an Essence of Finality, which is around about 320 million GP as of making this video, that ties this whole cost into around about 600 million GP, depending on the price at the time. Of course, you're going to maybe be able to get it a little bit less or a little bit more. It's absolutely crazy amount of money to spend on something that has really no use whatsoever before getting a fractured staff of Armadillo. So do not fall into this mistake of seeing other players using magic on streams or in videos and noticing they do an absolute ton of damage and then finding out that they have the Essence of Finalities with one of these in it. This is not what increases their damage so much. It is the fractured staff of Armadillo spec. This just ties well with it and complements it very well. On its own, this is not worth investing into, and you will be wasting quite a bit of money until you do get the fractured staff. If you have already bought one of these, do not panic sell it off. Do not replace it with something else. It is an expensive item. Put it in your bank, keep hold of it, and when you do get a fractured staff of Armadillo, it will have its value replaced to you. Do not sell it. Don't panic sell it. Don't go out of your way to get rid of it somehow. Just keep it stored. Trust me, it is useful. It is incredibly useful, but when you have the right item, the fractured staff of Armadillo first. The next item that I'm going to talk about is going to be boots. There's going to be some boots, but it is the upgraded version of the Blast Diffusion, the Laceration, and the Fleeting boots. The upgraded version of these is incredibly kind of not worth buying at any point unless you are best in slot, and that's your next thing to get, and it's not really worth the money in all honesty. So let's talk about that, and let's talk about why these boots are kind of not really worth investing into. The base boots of the Blast Diffusion, Laceration, and Fleeting boots all give effects that help you out in combat relevant to their combat styles. For example, the Fleeting boots let you move while using rapid fire. Incredibly useful. The Blast Diffusion boots charge your detonate a hell of a lot quicker, meaning it is a more viable skill to use. The Laceration boots let you use bladed dive with a two-handed weapon rather than having to have dual wield. So if you're someone who is camping a scythe, you can still use your bladed dive, but also it makes bladed dive an AoE ability, meaning it's incredibly useful for Raksha. That being said, you can upgrade these tier 80 boots into tier 90 boots. You only have to pair it with one cheap item, being a Shadow Spike obtained from Raksha, which of course, if you didn't get that, that is not a cheap item, okay? I am just joking. It is expensive as hell for what you get out of it. The Shadow Spike, like I say, is obtained from Raksha as a drop, and it costs at the moment around about 236 million GP. 236 mil for upgrading your boots from tier 80 to tier 90. Oh, but in it, there's plenty of weapons that cost that much at tier 90 or tier 92, and the upgrade from tier 80 to tier 90 is pretty big. No, not when it comes to boots. Trust me on this one, guys. The only difference you are going to get from upgrading your tier 80 boots to your tier 90 boots is 1.8. That's 1.8 stat boost. You're not going to get anything else. It is just a 1.8 stat boost in the combat style. So Blast Diffusion boots to the enhanced boots give you a 1.8 bonus in your magic strength. And the same goes for the melee ones and the range ones. You get 1.8 increase in stats for 236 mil. That is a great deal, right? No, do not buy these unless you are looking to just be best in slot and everything, and you have everything else first. I do not have these boots on my main account yet. I just don't see the reason in spending that much money to get that much extra damage boost. It is nothing. You will never notice the difference. It doesn't make the effect of the boots any better. You still have that effect from the tier 80s. It is purely 100% just a stat increase. That is all it is. Okay, no, I'm lying. There is a little bit of an increase in armor as well. You go from 84 armor to 108. It's still not worth it, guys. 200 and something mil, 236 mil. don't do it. Not early on, at least. When you want best in slot, go for it. Absolutely go for it. Not only does it cost that much to do as well, the actual repairing of it also costs 250k more per charge that you repair. So I wouldn't recommend getting these boots anytime soon. Well, that's going to bring us to the end of this video. I know there's only 3 items in here, and I'm sure there will be more, but I spent probably a good hour or two sat thinking of items that could match this description, but couldn't find any that kind of came on the same par as this. I didn't want it to just be random items thrown around saying, you shouldn't buy this until after this other item, because obviously that's just the way the sort of upgrade list goes. I wanted to talk about items that kind of aren't worth investing into, especially until you've got everything else done and out of the way, what a lot of people get into by accident or waste their money on, that sort of stuff. If you can think of any others, feel free to leave them in the comments down below, and if there is enough and they are good ones, I will absolutely make a part 2 to this video, and we'll trash talk some more items and make sure people aren't wasting their money on that too. Anyway guys, if you enjoyed this video, do leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you are new, or check that you are subscribed, because quite a lot of you guys that watch all of the content are not subscribed. Crazy. Quick mention on the music channel that I have made public now with all the music from this channel. If you do like it, it is all there available for you to use in your own videos if you make videos, or just to listen to if you enjoy that kind of music. The music is all commissioned from other great artists that I have found and paid them to do the work, so go and check that out if you're interested, and hopefully you do enjoy the music. Thank you to the channel members that support the channel that much extra each and every day. I appreciate it. Your names will have been on screen at some point, but other than that, thank you all for watching. Appreciate that too, and I will see you all in the next one. See you later guys. Bye.